Everyone, my name is Steve Mason, and I have the pleasure of chairing the Bond Oversight Committee for the new county jail. Thanks for joining us today, and we're glad you're here. Cassie, let's do a roll call, please.
Just a second.
Okay.
Javier Dara,
Present.
Sandino Thompson,
Present.
Boyd, Mike Mines,
Here.
William Davis,
Here.
Dean Hickman.
Present. So I have a quorum. Thank you, ma'am. So notice of this meeting was properly posted September 22nd, 2023. For purposes of this agenda, action means any of the following: amending, approving as amended, deferring, denying, giving instructions to staff, making a recommendation to another public body, receiving documents or presentations, referring to committee, reconsidering, reopening, returning, or striking the item. We have some minutes dated August 30, 2023. Is there any discussion or action?
Move to approve. Second.
Any discussion? We have a vote, Cassie?
Javier Dara,
Yes.
Sandino Thompson,
Yes.
Mike Mines,
Yes.
William Davis,
Yes.
Dean Hickman.
Yes. So we're going to jump to agenda item 6 for a bit, which is probably why most people are here. It's regarding the location for the new jail, and there's a public comment period allowed during that. So we'll take public comments both now and recognizing some people may not want to stay for the whole meeting, they can leave, and then we'll take public comments on this matter at the end again. I probably have received 100 emails on what I call the post road sites and the Douglas sites. And I appreciate everyone's input. I think trying to respect everybody's time in this room, be respectful. If someone's already said it, maybe we don't need to repeat it for an hour, would I think be helpful, but we're interested in all public input. So we're going to take some public input for a while. We're going to start, let's see, this person's not here. Is Pamela Finch here? Bill Richards? Jeff James?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Like everybody's saying, nobody wants a jail in their backyard. But the concern I have for that area out by Tinker Air Force Base is if we ever get back to a BRAC situation and we've got a jail that's adjacent to property that's slated for expansion of Tinker Air Force Base, that we're going to have a problem. And we will lose the 35,000 jobs that are out there. Granted, maybe something will come better down the road, but I don't think in the economic times that we're in that we should be throwing that aside with all the bond money that the county has purchased all this adjoining land, that we should just not take that into consideration.
Yes.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah. Tinker is a wonderful part of our community and very important, and we don't want to do something that would hurt us in a future BRAC. That is fair. John Coates.
Thank you. Appreciate the time to come up and talk. And I'm just here as own Tomcat Aviation in Midwest City. I have 43 families that work for me, and putting a jail next to Tinker would violate the safe space that, as Jeff said, lots of money was spent to create that space. And the risk associated with putting it there and putting Tinker Air Force Base back on the BRAC, the possibility should be enough to nix the Post Road sites. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. I understand regarding BRAC, and actually I received an email this morning with input from Tinker, I think about safe zones. I got it. Thank you, sir. And to comment today, Cassie has these cards you'll need to fill out at some point. If you want to comment, please. Steve Dixon. I think I missed, yeah.
Yep, you got it.
Right.
Steve Dixon. I didn't know about this till my wife pointed it out on the neighborhood app. And we live on Post Road, east side of Draper Lake. And I did serve on the Parks Commission over for many 8 years ago. And we have a master plan to develop the Draper area. We put in $10 million to build the trails, the hiking, the biking, the horse riding, and it's a nice area that's really growing and expanding out there, and people are kind of feeling safer now that we're not dumping bodies out there anymore. So I understand there's a school that's proposed to be built out there on 29th and Westminster area. We'll be mindful of that. We got the, and I'm talking about what I think is one of the proposed sites just north of 74th and Post Road. And you've got potential Tinker expansion, one to develop south of that of the 38th Engineering Installation Group there. And you do have the safe zone area, the northwest southeast runway. I had so many things to say, I should have put it down on paper, but just the develop with the master plan, developing the Draper area, this is going to put a little squash on it. And I don't know if you reviewed the 20-year master plan for that development out there. There's a lot of future stuff proposed to come in. The golf course proposals are always been on the board for 18 holes or two 18-hole golf courses on Post and 240 area. So I just say it's not a really good location at that point. I'm sure I can find more, but I should have bullet statement. I wasn't even going to speak. Somebody else needs to speak. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Dixon, about both Tinker and the importance of the recreational aspects of Lake Draper. Rick Cobb.
Thanks for giving me a chance to speak. I'm the Mid-Del superintendent, and I want to talk about 3 of the locations, not just the 2 that have already been discussed this afternoon already. I already sent a letter to each of your accounts and the county commissioners as well to this effect, but I heard a lot of concerns when I rewatched last month's meeting that you all had about the Brittany Kelly locations, and I think a lot of those concerns are relevant with regard to 3 locations that are in and near Mid-Del. First is the property on Grand. This one's technically outside of the Mid-Del district. It's in the Crooked Oak district, less than a mile from the Crooked Oak Public Schools campus. But it's about a mile, it's about 1.2 miles from one of our largest elementary schools, Epperly Heights, where we have over 600 students. Most of those students are walkers. They don't ride buses. So they're walking out towards Bryant Avenue. And the students who live close to Bryant Avenue would be walking to homes that are about a quarter of a mile from the proposed jail location that's on Grand. And I think you can see why that's really not a good idea. We have several other schools in the area, Del City High School, Del City Middle, where students are going to be let off buses in that same neighborhood. And again, they're going to be out walking home from the bus stop or walking home from school near the proposed jail property. The second is the property on Post Road. As you've already heard, there are concerns about Tinker, but we have several schools nearby as well. Soldier Creek Elementary, Carl Albert Middle School, and Carl Albert High School. And so we don't want to do anything that jeopardizes the largest employer in the state, but we don't want to do anything that's really close to our schools in Mid-Del either. I should also add that the city of Midwest City has added some ballparks on 29th that would be less than a mile away from this proposed location. And so there's always going to be an abundance of children in that area as well. The third one is down on Post Road. That one is about 1.5 miles from Barnes Elementary. It's out in the country. I can't imagine what would be the scenario of somebody getting out of jail, not having a ride, and where they would go. There are no sidewalks out there. The only thing out there would be houses and schools. And so I don't know where somebody being released from jail is going to go that's going to keep our people safe. I know you have a hard job, and I appreciate you stepping up to do this job. And as was already said earlier, nobody wants a jail in their backyard, but my concern is really just the safety of our schools and, just the logistics of keeping our community safe. Thank you.
Mr. Cobb, thanks for representing the safety of your students. How large is your school district?
About 13,000 students.
A lot of kids.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, and I hear you. Stephen Coates.
Thank you. I sent an email earlier to the county commissioners, and so I believe you all got a copy of it, but I'd like to emphasize a few of the points real quick, if I may. Tinker Air Force Base is the state's largest single-site employer. In 2021, the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce put the employee count at over 26,000, and the annual economic impact at an excess of $4.83 billion. An overview of the relevant history helps illustrate the level of commitment the state and county have shown. Tinker has been around since the 1940s and was originally established as Midwest Air Depot. In 1973, Air Force officials threatened to close Tinker unless the Glenwood neighborhood was cleared out to make room north of the main runway due to safety concerns. Voters approved a $10.8 million bond called for by the Oklahoma County Commissioners and bought the entire neighborhood. Glenwood Elementary School was closed and 835 homes were removed. In 1993, Tinker was placed on the BRAC for the first time. Air Force Lieutenant General Richard Burpee had 30 days to put together a presentation to keep Tinker open. He successfully made his case, and along with an outpouring of support from the community and the legislature, John Connor organized a Hands Around Tinker, where 5,000 people showed up. 23,000 signatures were collected by the Del City Chamber of Commerce, and the Oklahoma Senate passed concurrent resolution 26 in favor of keeping Tinker open. In 95, Tinker was again placed on the BRAC, this time positioned against Kelly Air Force Base, where arguing in favor of Kelly included then Governor George W. Bush, Senator Kay Bailey Hutchinson, and Senator Phil Graham. Lieutenant General Burpee argued that Tinker was more productive than Kelly, and as a result, Kelly was recommended for closure and was officially closed on July 13, 2001. Two of the 9 criteria for determining base closures include the availability and condition of land and facilities at both the existing and potential receiving locations and the community support at the receiving locations. In 2002, voters approved a bond issuance of up to $50 million to clear houses near the base in order to improve the base's BRAC rating and better protect it from future rounds of base closures. This included 104 houses at I-40 and Douglas Boulevard. In 2005, Tinker was spared from the BRAC list after intense lobbying efforts. In 2008, Oklahoma County voters approved a $54 million bond to purchase the abandoned GM facility along what was then Tinker's fence line. That property was then leased to Tinker for $1 per year. In 2009, Oklahoma County Commissioners voted to help fund the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber's efforts to bring jobs to Tinker Air Force Base by providing the Chamber with $200,000 in funds left over from the GM purchase. In 2015, Tinker Air Force Base acquired 158 acres of land formerly owned by BNSF on the southwest side of the base, and the land purchase was jointly funded by the U.S. Air Force for $8 million, City of Oklahoma City for $23.5, and Oklahoma County for $12.5. By placing the Oklahoma County Detention Center next to Tinker, it sends the wrong message to the Department of Defense, the Air Force, and any future BRAC commissions. The message will at the very least be that we didn't consider the implications, and at the very worst, it will be that we're okay trading $5 billion of our economy for a 3,000-bed jail had more appropriate sites available. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Coates. I've got about 100 emails I'm sorting through. Can I have those comments?
Sure.
Mine? I'm sure it's in one of my 100 emails.
Yeah, no, it's all.
And those are, the chronology is really important. It's okay. But no, Tinker's important, and Senator Inhofe and the community have done a great job protecting it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Kenny Olson? Okay. You want me to save you for the end, or are you done? Okay. I'm glad they already said what you were going to say. Walter Jacques?
Yeah, hello, Chairman Mason and Board. My name is Walter Jacks. I'm a citizen. I don't own any property or interest near any of these proposed locations, but I'd like to make some citizen comment. In addition to what's been said about Tinker, and I think they're right, where the potential for Tinker to pass or fail on a BRAC is really, really important to the community. But in terms of moving a jail location out to Post or Douglas Roads, I think would really create quite a hardship on the county sheriff department for having to transport people all the way out there and back. And I think that would be an incredible logistical expense to locate out there. As for the South Grand Trail, it really is, I'm very familiar with that area as a bicycle pedestrian advocate. It's very close. It's within half a mile to a lot of residences with a lot of small kids. And the South Grand Trail is really one of the highlights of the MAPS bicycle trails. And so there will be a lot of people bicycling and walking, skating past that location on South Grand. Looking at the two properties offered up by the airport authority, I think are ideal. There's already a federal inmate transfer facility down by the airport off of Meridian. And the other property that's by Newcastle Road and 54th is an industrial area. And that leaves also the existing jail site, which already houses a lot of bail bondsmen, so they wouldn't have to relocate. At any rate, the Post, the Douglas, and the South Grand Trails, I think, are bad choices. And I think the two airport properties and the existing site are good choices. Thank you.
Thanks, Walter. You know, our bike trails are where I ride a bike. I ride along the river. I can't get as far as Grant at my age. But our bike trails are important. We're all proud of them. Thank you. Al Rich.
Ms. Davis and other members of the committee, thank you for letting me speak. Much of what I was going to talk about has already been discussed. I won't cover that again.
Thank you.
I will say one thing about the recreation area. There is another recreation area that wasn't mentioned, and that's a new one that the city just finished. So on the southeast, just on the south side of Southeast 29th Street between Douglas and Post Road. And there's plans to expand that recreation area. It's a huge softball facility. And that would be very close to the southeast side locations, candidate locations. Since much of this has already been discussed, I'll limit my discussion to two areas. One is the utilities. The utilities in that area, most of the citizens south of 29th Street are dependent on providing their own utilities, water, sewage. So they drill wells and they put in septic systems. There's no sewer system out there. There's no city water out there. So if a jail was located in that area, water, those services would have to be provided. They can be provided two ways. One is the city puts pipelines in to provide it, which would be expensive, or they would do the same thing the citizens have done, drill wells and put in a septic system or a sewage pond. Putting wells in would be deep wells, because I'm assuming that a facility that large would require at least two wells. And most of the wells in that area are between 100 feet and 170 feet deep. If the county put a well in to support that jail facility, I guess they would be deep wells, and they would compete for the aquifer out there, which could drain and lower the aquifer and require many of the citizens in that area who can no longer reach the water to have to re-drill wells, and wells are not inexpensive to drill. So that would be an added cost to the citizens to re-reach the aquifer water that's available to them if the jail put wells down and lowered the aquifer. So it's just a consideration that I think you need to consider. The other thing I'll mention is property values. No one's mentioned that, but I think it's reasonable to assume that property values would be affected. I live 2 miles east of Tinker Air Force Base on Westminster, between 59th and 74th. And I know there's lots of nice, beautiful homes that's been built in that corridor, and I know the property values would be affected. I would say that, from my perspective, looking at a new location seems to be a prime location would be industrial areas that already have industrial things going on, not residential things going on, where Utilities are already provided. Water, city sewage are already there. All they'd have to do is hook up to it. Someone mentioned in the last meeting in August, I watched it on my computer. They talked about the transfer center being a candidate area. And I know where that's at, but it seems to be an industrial area that would be a candidate area as well. So I want to thank you for your time. I know that volunteering your time for work like this is time consuming. I'm a volunteer myself, so I'm aware of how much time it can be, and I appreciate your service. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rich. Thanks for telling us about this softball facility I wasn't aware of. And I've served on the state EPA board for 25 years, so I understand your water comments. Thank you. Jerry Zimmerman?
Hello, folks. My name's Jerry Zimmerman. I live out near Southeast 59th and Post. Much of what I have to say has already been discussed as well, so I won't keep you long. I did want to mention you might take a look at the zoning off of Post Road, not just the zoning, but the acoustic overlays that are applied because of the noise hazard being close to the runways, close to the low-level flight paths that may make it difficult to build, especially down at 74th and Post. The other side up south of Interstate 40 is a little less restrictive, but there is a Soldier Creek floodplain that I believe might affect part of that property. The only other thing I have to mention is I talked to Mr. Mason briefly about if you do decide to consider the current site. I know a big issue at your last meeting was what you do with the current population while you're building a new jail. If you're able to add to the existing property in any way, if you could build in a phased or modular fashion, build enough housing to support at least some of those current population, maybe most, maybe all, and then demolish the existing structure and continue your construction with your new enhancements like your mental health wing and those kinds of things. So that's all I got. Thank you for your time.
And thanks, Mr. Zimmerman, for your thought about a phased construction if we stay where we are. And I bet HOK Architect will talk to us about it. Elaine Winterink?
First of all, thank you for everything that you are doing and going through. I know it's not an easy process. Can you hear me okay? The things I want to bring
Pull
up,
the microphone down a little bit.
the things I want to bring up that other people haven't brought up is that in the locations near Tinker and at Trosper Park, but I know by the ones at Tinker, there's no infrastructure, like you said, no water or sewer lines, but you also have to have a high pressure water line if you're going to have a sprinkler system in the building. So that's another cost. They are closing Douglas. I assume you know that. It's too close to schools and recreational areas. You got Draper Lake. There is a brand new grade school. Choctaw Nono Park is building a grade school at Southeast 29th and Westminster. So there's another school to consider. And then I want to address Trosper Park or the Grand area. Again, that's a big recreational area. You got a golf course, you got trails, you've got things that people do. But another thing that I want to bring up about that Trosper Park location or the Grand location, it's 1.6 miles from the new Okana development.
New what?
Okana development and the First Americans Museum and the river. And so it's really close to all of that that's being built right now. And I think I covered all the points people wanted me to cover, so thank you.
Great. Thanks, Ms. Waring, about the utilities and neighbors and recreational. Okay, those are all the comments that have been submitted to me at this time. At the end of the meeting, when we actually talk about the sites, we will once more accept public comments. If you'll fill out a card and give it to Cassie. So we're going to return to the beginning of our agenda. We have a recurring item, number 2, discussion and possible action regarding the planning, design, management, and construction. I believe that'll be covered under departmental items, I imagine. The next agenda is agenda item number 3 with the county engineer, Stacy Trumbo, discussion and possible action on an update from HOK, which is our architect, regarding the new Oklahoma County Adult Detention Center, including our tour to Wichita Falls last week. Hey, Kurt.
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone.
And remind us who you are and who you're with.
Thank you. My name is Kurt Pardee. I'm a principal with HOK. We're the architecture firm that will be designing the new detention and behavioral health center for the county. We've been doing a lot in the past couple of months. Wanted to just kind of briefly go over some of that. When we start a project like this, it's important, it's required to develop a very detailed space needs assessment. We have been meeting with members from the county jail, detention officers, the jail supervisor, and the healthcare people, everyone that works at the jail facility currently, talking about space needs. We have also been looking at jail population and how that may be impacted in the future. So we're using all that information to help us determine how large the new facility needs to be. It's still in process, but there's a lot of information that we've gathered so far. We're doing the same thing with the behavioral health facility requirements. As you all know, part of this new facility will be a behavioral health component that will help manage the inmates that come to the facility that have a mental health issue. And so we've been working on a separate part of the facility that will help to take better care of the individuals that would be housed there in the jail facility should they be housed there. So we've been developing a space needs analysis for that as well. And we're following up with some meetings next week, another set of meetings with the detention center individuals as well as the behavioral health people to talk about, to review the space needs that we've developed so far, look at the total square footage, make sure we're not missing anything functionally that we've talked with them about as we've developed the space program. So that's happening next week. We're also beginning to develop adjacency diagrams, which are something we use to help lay out the facility when we get to that point. So we're diagramming what parts of all the different elements of the project need to be next to each other, adjacency-wise, and that helps us to develop the floor plan as we move forward. So we've been working on that, and we'll have some things to share with the groups that we're meeting with next week. We also, as we kind of wrap up the space needs analysis, we are also going to be looking at a staffing analysis, a detailed staffing analysis for the new facility. When you determine the number of beds and you look at the number of posts that we're going to have in the new facility, you can start to figure out how many detention officers it will take to manage this new facility. And of course, your current facility has been understaffed, so it's really important that we understand going in how many staff you're going to need to operate the new facility correctly. So we're going to talk about that and develop that within the next month so that we have that information. Moving on to site evaluations, a lot of great comments today. I like you, I appreciate hearing from everybody. We have been the ones who have been kind of taking all that information in and putting it into a spreadsheet, and then helping you and everybody look at which sites make the most sense. So it's very helpful. It's been an ongoing process, and so we're continuing to do that, and we'll have more to share as we define what the space needs are. We've already determined we need a minimum of 45 to 50 acres. It'd be better to have a little bit more if we can. So it's difficult to find a location for that in a location that makes sense to the county. And we also are looking at the existing site, coming up, how could you utilize that site? It's a different kind of facility if we do that. Your current building is a 13-story jail tower, has a lot of problems, and the county has dealt with that for many, many years. So, looking at something that's not nearly as tall would really reduce the issues that the county has had with their existing facilities. So, That's something that we look at as and the gentleman that mentioned phasing earlier is absolutely right. It's a fully operational, functional jail. You can't take those people anywhere while you're building it. They have to stay there. So being able to build around that is in figuring that out is really important as a phasing as we start looking at that. Finally, the last thing on this sheet, the facility tours. We've done a couple. Davidson County, we visited Nashville, Tennessee with a lot of your folks several weeks ago now, and we saw a new facility that incorporates behavioral health management in their facility, and talked a lot about the direct supervision concept, a new way of managing a jail. Your existing facility is an indirect supervision. Jails aren't built that way anymore typically. They're all direct supervision, which makes for easier management of inmates, better management of inmates, less issues in the facility when you manage that way. So the Nashville facility was a direct supervision facility. Just last week we went down to Wichita Falls, Texas, and they have a new facility, much smaller than what you're going to be looking at, but it is a direct supervision facility, a single-story facility. So it gave us all a chance to look at how that functioned and how it operated and how does that meet the county's needs to do something similar. Yours would be on a much larger scale, but it does, I think it was very beneficial to get a lot of the county detention officers over there to kind of see how that works, and see how it could be and how much more operationally efficient it would be. And finally, we have another tour that we're getting scheduled, Marion County. It's Indianapolis. That's a new facility that our firm has also completed. And it's been under operation for about 2 years now. They also have incorporated behavioral health components into that facility. It's a larger facility. I think it's a little over 2,000 beds, if I remember right. But going there and looking at that, much like we've looked at the other two, just to kind of see other facilities, how they operate, and what can we take away from those to bring back and incorporate into your design to make it as efficient as we can. Those are the updates. There's one more page, Cassie. Thank you. Project schedule. Always important to understand. I know it's kind of hard for everyone to see. Thank you. So we're in the very early phases right now, initial study services. We've been evaluating different properties, getting information to the county to look at, hoping for a decision on the site in October at some point, maybe late October, maybe November. There's a lot to consider. So, it is important that you take into account all the important elements that need to be looked at. We're not trying to hurry that, but it just helps to know what your overall schedule is. So we're trying to track that as well. The space needs, as I mentioned, we've been developing all of that, and we're hoping to wrap that up really by the end of October, and then start some conceptual development in November. We then move into preliminary design, schematic design, and really look at the entire project. When we first started, we were talking a lot about ARPA funds, some ARPA funds being dedicated to this project. We all know that for that to happen, those funds need to be allocated by the end of 2024. That may seem like a long time away, but when you're designing buildings this large, it takes a while. So it's really going to take us 12 months to get through the design process and work with a contractor, developing a GMP, and knowing what that cost is going to be. We're showing that on the schedule currently, and then the entire project. So there may be a piece of the project that actually starts sooner and is able to start sooner because we're going to design it that way so that we can actually get the funds allocated in time and then get the construction completed in time before the end of 2027. 24, yeah. So that's the overall schedule we're looking at, and that's kind of what we've been working on. Any questions?
Any committee comments? I think a real important thing you've talked about it in this design is our antiquated jail that's a 40-year-old design is indirect supervision, and you're proposing to go to direct.
Correct.
Can you re-explain that a little more?
Right. So an indirect supervision facility, which is what you currently have, you have an officer within an enclosed station that is looking at cameras and monitors, and that's how he's monitoring the inmates. He or she never really leaves that location. Um, every 30 minutes, they have an officer going around the facility checking cells to meet the requirements of American Correctional Association standards. But that's an indirect supervision where the officer is not really in with the inmates. In a direct supervision facility, we have an officer who stands at an officer station or sits at the officer station within the housing unit, within the day room. So when the inmates are out of their cells, they talk with each other. They understand are there any issues going on. They can tell if someone's getting ready, if someone's angry at another inmate. They can prevent inmate on inmate violence. They can see just through talking to the inmates on a daily basis if they have any particular issues that they need taken care of. So it really is it's a newer way of managing inmates. It's been done for the last over 20 years throughout the country, but all facilities that we go to are utilizing that type of supervision, and does that help understand?
And I sense from our tours, a couple benefits. One is the mental health of these guests is better,
It is
and they're better behaved.
much better behaved. Yes. The really neat thing about direct supervision is inmates have the ability to utilize an iPad for a certain time during the day to get out of their cell, to go to a rec yard, and all these things help inmates act better and help them really move back into the community when that time comes. Being able to interact with people regularly is very important. And that just only helps the situation of when we release inmates, everybody gets released for the most part. And so at some point, right? So you want to make sure that you've got them in the best situation for that to happen.
Any other committee comments? Any public comments? And Mr. Zimmerman, HOK Kurt agrees with you about phasing, so I guess we'll put you on our committee. Okay. All right, the next agenda item is discussion and possible action by our county engineer, Stacy Trumbo, to establish a selection committee for the construction manager at risk RFQ, which the layperson means hire a contractor.
And that is already out on the street. I believe we opened those mid-October or so. We'll have to evaluate those proposals when they come in. We'll have to shortlist. We'll have to have a series of interviews, probably more than one. A lot of work to be done to select the right contractor for this very important project. So we'd like to have some folks from your committee be on that selection committee, 3 or less, so you don't create a quorum. So 1, 2, or 3, it's up to you. And somebody that can commit 6 or 7 days over the next 30 days to do the heavy lifting and the work required.
Any volunteers?
I'll volunteer.
Javier? Joanne? Anyone else?
I'll do it.
Sandino? You got 3.
All right. I'll be in touch with you as events unfold.
Okay, thank you. The next agenda item is agenda item number 5, discussion and possible action regarding the next special meeting of this group. When's our tentative date? Soon? No? Sandino, you're a pretty good keeper of our calendar.
Yeah, I'd set up recurring. I had the 24th down as the tentative.
For October?
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Yep.
And I'm here. Are we good with October 24th? Okay. Do we need a motion on that or not? Yes, a motion? I need a motion, please. I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Cassie, let's vote.
Javier Mira,
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Joanne Davis,
Yes.
Yes. Agenda item 6 would be consideration and a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to 25 OS 307B3 to engage in confidential communications regarding the purchase of or appraisal of real property to be used as the site for a county's detention center from among the 6 properties on our agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Javier Mira,
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And I'm friends of the public, I'm anticipating this will be about 15 or 30 minutes. And then typically we may come back and make recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners on sites. So we'll be back. Thank you. Hi, everyone. We're back. I need a motion to return from executive session.
So moved.
And I have a second. Okay, is there any discussion? Cassie?
Javier Mira,
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Joanne Davis.
Yes.
Steve Mason.
Yes. Okay, so I've left item number 6, and now I'm to item number 7, which action regarding the confidential communications regarding the purchase of or appraisal of real property to be used as the site for a county detention center from among the following properties. There are 6 on our agenda, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 12. I think before we go to our commission, we have a public comment from a nickel, SZOF. I'm sorry.
Thank you for letting me speak today. I just wanted to expand on one of the comments made earlier in the session about the Grand location. I know Elaine had mentioned Okana and that project there, but I just wanted to make sure that the public as well as the committee was aware of the implications of that. So the Okana project, for anybody that doesn't know, is going to be an indoor-outdoor water park. There's going to be 12 or 13 different water attractions there. So it is going to be a big tourist attraction, not just within Oklahoma, but outside of Oklahoma. And then I know that part of the river right there in front of Okana is where they have shifted down the practice for the Olympic rowers. And because of that, they've actually made that Horizons District, and Oklahoma City is now a candidate for the 2028 Summer Olympics. And so I just wanted those 2 items to be part of the considerations for why I would be opposed to the Grand location.
All right. Thanks for your update on Okana and the rowing. Cassie told me, Mr. Dixon, you have another comment? You got something new to tell us? Come on, tell us something.
No,
You've had time.
nothing really new except I'll introduce my wife, Desert Storm veteran, and the VA bought her a nice bike to ride around the trails in Draper. And my concern is, of course, people say I wouldn't ride around there without a weapon or gun. They're kind of concerned out there. But if this jail does get close, those are things, maybe I'll put a thing on her bike to protect herself. But with all a lot of the development out there, Hefner Lake, a lot of traffic has been coming up to Draper Lake now since we spent $10 million on that trail and the future expansion that lake for recreation. And they're talking about maybe making a pool, a swimming area out there, if not the whole lake, and a new RV location to bring it up to the north end of the lake versus the back in the southwest side. There's just so much. A lot of people have moved. I've talked to the police out there. A lot of people have moved from Hefner Lake for biking and hiking and the water sports, or from skiing and whatever. I just can't emphasize enough how this jail would put a little squash on some of that. And it's just things are growing really nice over that way. And
Okay, I understand.
okay, thank
No,
you for
thanks
your
for
patience.
your comment about the importance of Draper and our veterans. Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Are there any other public comments? Okay, we're open to committee discussion about any actions we want to take.
I'd like to vote for the motion. I would like to motion that we move forward. Let's see, the locations for 9, 10, and 12 to the Board of County Commissioners for their consideration, and based on the criteria that we've discussed so far.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Is there any public discussion? And just for those that maybe don't have their agenda in front of them, sites 4, 9, 10, and 12. Number 4 is the 71 acres of land located at 1901 East Grand Boulevard. Site number 9 is up to 160 acres of land located at 5201 South Meridian. Site number 10 is up to 192 acres of land located between South Newcastle Road and Southwest 54th. And number 12 is the existing jail site located at 201 North Chartel. Is there any more committee discussion? Cassie, are you ready for us? Okay, we need a vote.
Javier Mira,
Yes.
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 Yes. All right, motion passes. Is there any other board comments? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
I guess someone likes our motion. Okay, I guess we need a vote, Cassie?
Yes.
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 Yes. And I hope to the public, y'all appreciate, and we certainly appreciate public participation in our citizen United States matters. Thank you.